If you've been struggling with getting clarity on what your niche is, then this video is for you. Or if you've identified a niche and you just want to make sure that you're solid in the confirmation of it, then pay attention to this conversation. We're going to talk about the 3 different kinds of niches. We're going to talk about going from one focus to another focus or vice versa. And we're going to talk about the single most important element in all of it, no matter what kind of niche you choose. There are a couple different kinds of niches in the coaching industry specifically. I think there's a third kind of niche, which is like a personality niche that isn't as relevant. At least I don't see it a lot, and I wouldn't suggest it in the coaching industry. But that would be like if somebody has just a real magnetic sort of personality that people just want to watch them. I think there's a lot of YouTubers that just turn their camera on and they just be themselves, and people just want to watch them, and their personality, their traits, their quirks, all the things that are uniquely them and that become entertaining to people become their niche personality. But that's not as relevant in the coaching world, because the coaching world is about like teaching people something. And so you generally want one of those 2 things to be your niche, either the people or the something, right? And we talk a lot about, how has that not ever come up? Like, it's just so simple.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about the niche of the people, teach the people something. And I think that's generally the best way to go, especially if there's not a real pull for somebody or they're really convicted in teaching the content, but it's not the only way to go. So there are people that just feel more comfortable for whatever reason, or they're more passionate, more lit up, and more willing to teach content. And if that's going to get you in motion, then do that. Yes. One of the things that I've just learned over the course of 15 plus years and really 10 plus years helping coaches build businesses and becoming better coaches and all that is that there is no right and wrong. It's just what works. And we define what works as, do you do it? Like, what's the best calendar system? The one you'll use. Amen. What's the best target to go after? The one you'll go after.
Right.
What's the best action to take? The one you'll take.
Amen.
And then if we have a decision to make, because there are 3 different actions that we are taking, then we can start to hone in. But most people are not taking the action because they don't have the target specific enough to get them to take action. Forget why. Like, I mean, we can go round and round about why that could be, but if that's the case, then I would always default to whatever it is that you'll do. And so if you feel more comfortable doing a topic niche, then do that.
Yes.
And I think you'll end up backing into a profile or a client niche, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But let's say that you just really are geeked out about teaching people how to save money, or teaching people how to get out of debt, or teaching people how to be happier in relationships of any kind, or teaching people how to love themselves. If you are lit up about a piece of content or about just a topic and a conversation, you being lit up could be the magnet that draws people in.
Right.
And that could end up being this like energetic attraction based on what you're lit up by. And I think most people are not lit up in life, lit up being like just passionate and excited about life and just want to get up and get out of bed and live. Most people, I don't think, are living that kind of life, which means they're attracted to it. Because I think most people do want to live that kind of life. I think at some point in time, all of us did live that kind of life, and we wanted to live that kind of life. And we thought that kind of life was meant for us. And then at some point in time, for most of us, that was just programmed out of us for whatever reason. And a lot of us just never got back there. So I think there's this natural human desire to live a lit up life. And because of that, if we see people who are lit up, we want to watch them. Yeah. It's like, I just got this image of like, like something's on fire and we want the warmth. And so we'll just put our hands around the fire, like there's something coming off of this energy, and I want to experience it.
Yeah.
So whatever will bring passion out of you is something that could draw people into you. And they might just be drawn by the passion. I'm sure you've done this. I've watched plenty of videos and listened to podcasts or watched TV shows just because of the passion of the person that was delivering it, not
Yeah.
because I actually had any interest in the topic whatsoever.
Right. Do you think that it works the other way? That I know you said sometimes you can back into the person. Do you believe that if you start with the person, you could also back into the topic, like the content niche?
Yeah, for sure. And so I'll just go ahead and answer both of those instead of waiting until the end. I'll go from topic to person.
Okay.
So let's say you are lit up about teaching self-love, and you teach it and you do a bunch of videos on it, and you're adjusting the message based on the engagement and answering people's questions and all that stuff. And you get really good and certain, and you build some viability in this topic. Viability meaning people are liking it, they're showing up. If you have stuff to sell, they're buying it. You build up some viability, and now you've got a viable product or a viable niche here. Then after a certain period of time, what my suggestion would be is let's explore some of the sub niches, specifically the people inside of that. And the question I would ask is, who is it that you enjoy coaching the most? So then if somebody goes, man, I mean, I love teaching self-love to everyone, but you know who lights me up the most is the teenagers. You know, when a teenager goes, oh, I can do this in life, and then they have all these dreams and they get committed to the dreams, then awesome. Or maybe it's athletes. You know, once you get a dream and you're already committed, or you start to love yourself and you detach from who you are as a person and your performance in the athletic arena, and then you actually start to perform better, and then you're already convicted and committed to this, and so you just go all out. Whatever lights the teacher up the most about certain people, then my suggestion would be let's dive into that and see if there's some depth there that we haven't touched yet. And you can explore, like, once you get this profile niche, once you get an ideal client niche, then there's usually thousands of them behind that one person, and you can get to them the more specific you are to what's going on in their head. So that's how I think you can back in to a profile niche from a topic niche. The opposite can basically happen the exact same way. If you have an ideal client, if you have a seeker, and you teach that person about whatever it is that you're teaching them, then you can ask basically the same question. What is it that you get lit up the most about those people?
Right.
And I remember that was one of the questions that I asked myself when we were going through bankruptcy, and there was so much disruption years and years ago. One of the questions I asked myself was a version of that. And I said, what do I get lit up the most about in teaching at all these seminars that I was doing? So I was doing a lot of seminars specifically in the Mary Kay world, and helping people build their businesses and get over their fears and all that stuff in their particular niche of success in that company. But as I looked back, what brought the most out of me was talking about parenting. And I would just get lit up and I would get all geeked out. But what I noticed is it brought a lot out of the parents also. Now, not everybody in the room was a parent, because that's not the magnet that they were drawn to. But when I started talking about parenting, I saw the parents just lean in more. I saw more questions. It felt like there was more conviction, and there was more desire, and there was more leverage, because parents have a lot of inherent desire to not mess up their kids and to give their kids a life that they didn't have, and protect them from all the evils of the world, etc. So there's a lot of leverage there that we can tap into. And because of that, I started focusing just on parents. And I did a little bit of content. I didn't stick with it at that point in my life for a long time, but I started to focus on parenting, and I started to write a book that was how to raise empowered kids. I had a website, how to raise empowered kids. I started to create content. And at that time, for reasons that I'm not even remembering right now, there was just something that caused me to say, this is awesome. And for now, in this moment, we got to do this instead.
Right.
But that happened because I essentially committed to the parenting world for however many months that was. But a lot of seeds were planted. And I have since talked a lot about parenting. And now I have a book specific in the parenting niche that will come out soon, just for fathers and daughters. But the seeds of that book was planted in the How to Raise Empowered Kids content. And that came out of, to your point, what is it that you most like teaching these particular people? So absolutely, you can back into the other one by starting with one of them. So if you've been struggling with getting in motion and you've tried to identify who your ideal client is, who your seeker is, or your ideal student, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't landed, sometimes it's best to just shake something up and get in motion in another way, get in motion in another direction. And so this could be the motion that you get into. And ultimately, you got to take action. You got to make posts. You know, if you're doing on social media stuff, you got to do videos, you got to teach, because a lot of times we can't know what we really fully enjoy or what we don't until we're actually teaching it. And then we recognize, like, this doesn't really feel all that good, or wow, this just brought so much out of me, and it caused me to have all these other ideas, and we could go here and we can go there. So like with a piece of clothing that you're looking at in the store, I mean, very rarely does anybody buy a piece of clothing without trying it on. So much of this business and this journey requires you to try it on, actually coach people that you're wanting to help, actually teach some of the stuff that you're not quite sure if you want to teach. And by trying it on and committing to it, then it could give you that internal guidance of whether it feels right or it doesn't. And then you just make a decision accordingly. And there's nothing wrong with spending a month or a year or a few days on something and then recognizing it doesn't bring the most out of you and then pivoting. That's not making the wrong decision. And that doesn't mean you're dumb. And that's not a waste of time. That's actually incredibly valuable. I told a client just the other day who's been sort of waffling a little bit in terms of just success, not having a whole lot of success. And then we landed on something that was really powerful. And I told him, all these 4 years that you've been in this journey was worth this moment right here. I promise you, because this is the clicking point that could lead to things that you can't even imagine, but you had to try on all of this other stuff. You had to have the experience. You had to get the bloody noses in order to recognize that that isn't it. And what I said is, you can now close that door with certainty.
Yes.
And that's really powerful. And that's progress, when we can try something and close the door with certainty because we know that's not where we're meant to be.
Yeah. We have to give ourselves the experience of the decision. I was speaking with a client last week about this conversation, that whether it is for a year, like you said, or a week, or even just a few days, to just go all in on that thing so that you can get that experience and actually see how it see how it operates and feel how it actually feels for you and for them. And the only way to do that is to give yourself that experience of trying it on.
Try it on. And if you want any support with this, sometimes it's tough to get an outside perspective internally. Well, I guess it's impossible to get an outside perspective literally from ourselves without asking somebody else. But a lot of times it's tough to identify what it is that really lights you up. You know, it seems like that would be easy because you just pay attention. But I know you see this all the time, and I see it all the time, where people will say something and we'll go, that just came out of you differently.
Yeah.
And they go, what did I say? And they don't even recognize that there was more passion there, or there was more juice, you know, there was more energy. And so it can be really helpful to have somebody pull out of us the passion or the excitement, or to just recognize the things that we don't recognize. And so if that would be of value to you, you can register for a signature value session. That's a session where you'll be connected with either myself or somebody else on the team. And we have a series of questions for you. There's 10 questions. We ask you 10 questions and then have a conversation. And after the conversation, we essentially will give you what we think is your signature value, both from what comes out of you, but also from what we know about the market, what's out there, what's not out there. We're in this market constantly. We've been here. I've been in this market for 15 plus years. So I know what's out there. I understand the market. I understand the change. I understand so much about what's being sold and how it's being sold and what's missing out there, and where your individual uniqueness can be a real valuable asset. And that's extremely difficult for us to understand on our own. So if that's interesting and intriguing to you, you can click a link down at the description, or we'll put a card or something, and you can explore doing a signature value session with somebody on our team.
Booyah.
And if you like this video, let us know in the comment section, like it or share it if you want, but definitely subscribe to the channel if you want more discussions around this. If you want to be a coach, or you are a coach and you just want to expand your coaching business, we talk a lot about the inner game of coaching, as well as the strategies of coaching and what's working in the market and what's not working in the market. Make sure you turn on the notifications so you don't miss anything that we ever put out. Now, if you like this video, but you're still not sure if you even have a niche, or you just want more conversation around it, watch that video. It's called, "If You Don't Have a Niche, Do This." So here's the exercise. If you don't really have an ideal client, then just think of who are some of the possible people you can help.